Has Mercedes scared the other teams, and what does their impressive Barcelona shakedown mean for the rest of the grid and for the start of the season? This is Nailing the Apex. I'm Tim Hauraney, and joining me from the Netherlands, Dutch motorsport reporter for ViaPlay, Nelson Valkenburg, here to help me break all of what we saw from shakedown down. Nelson, how you doing, buddy?
Well, scrapping for information like everybody with an F1 accreditation is at the moment. Secretive test. We're not used to this anymore, and you can really tell from a lot of my colleagues, but also for myself, that I'm really thirsty for information.
Yeah, 100%, man. I've been texting everybody I know who's there, trying to pull as much stuff out of them as I can without getting into trouble. So let's start with Mercedes. I mean, completed the 3 days of testing, an impressive, 500 laps of running for their car across those 3 days. I think that it was just over 2,300 kilometers of total mileage. So that was very impressive. Day three, they were able to spend most of their third day of their running on the C3 soft compound tire. And I think, Nelson, obviously being able to set the performance times on that tire, they looked really impressive.
Absolutely. They were well prepared, and that we knew this because they were well prepared for their filming day. They did it close to 200 kilometers at that. This is obviously the huge advantage when you are the one designing the engine as well as the car together. And you just know that everything will fit right and get the right airflow, sensors will have the right temperatures, etc. But to pull this off with the level of preparation is incredible. On their second day of testing, Tim, they did a race simulation with live pit stops.
Crazy.
With all the scaremongering and the fear and the worries we all had for this new generation of cars, and will they run, will they be slow? For them to do this is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Playing with car setups as well. There were some teams who actually never really got to really play with car setups at all, given as to where they were running, what day they were running, how many laps they were able to get in. I mean, we'll talk about Cadillac and we'll talk about Alpine and things like that later. However, when we look at Mercedes and both George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, what both drivers were able to accomplish, I didn't think they were going to be able to hit this much mileage. I mean, yeah, the filming day was impressive, almost getting 200 laps in, but I didn't think that they would be able to, rack up this amount of kilometers. I mean, over, 2,300 kilometers is pretty wild when it comes down to it in terms of the testing as a whole. Monday, they did 151 laps, and that was split between Kimi Antonelli doing 56 laps, George Russell doing 95 laps. And on the Wednesday, Mercedes ran again. That was their second day of testing, doing 183 laps. Russell was 92 laps, and Antonelli was 91. And then on that Thursday, their third and final day of their shakedown was 168 laps, with George Russell doing 78 and Antonelli doing 90. This is good mileage for a driver like Kimi Antonelli. I mean, obviously George has the experience of going through, quite a few years of testing, Nelson, but for Kimi Antonelli, I mean, pretty impressive from him. Obviously he didn't set the lap times that George did, but his was also in different conditions as well. So we can't really measure the performance of Antonelli's fastest lap times and stuff like that. But how impressive was this from Kimi Antonelli?
Well, first of all, if we're talking about lap times, I think we should put a bit of a disclaimer here, because I just have a niggling feeling that in a couple of months' time, when we get back to Barcelona with the season proper, we'll be 2-3 seconds quicker. I think what we're doing, what everybody is doing, is building a foundation. This is a foundational test. Putting in the work, getting your car ready to actually see what it does with different setups and how it responds. I doubt there's someone there, especially an engineer, who'd say, well, we're close to the limit of what the capabilities of these cars are. That being said, the Mercedes was among or the fastest car every time it ran. And it ran pretty much faultlessly from what we can see from afar. And Kimi Antonelli, by all accounts, what I hear from the team of Mercedes, has done a stellar job in also preparing for this new generation of cars. It's his first time also not being able to run a TPC car, an older car that is in regulation similar to this one. So it's a completely new world for him. And when you saw the glint in both him and George Russell's eyes, they know they have a solid foundation.
Yeah. And I think
come Melbourne, it could be different. They could be still 3/10 in the rear. That's not the point of this test.
Yes, exactly. It's kind of like how many systems checks can you get through? How much mileage can you put on your equipment? I kind of view it as a team like Mercedes getting the amount of mileage, getting the amount of running and understanding and data and lap time from their shakedown. It basically puts them ahead of a lot of the other teams who struggled to get the car to the track, struggled to get the car ready to get out onto the track, didn't start off on the right foot, so to speak. And so you're having to play catch up to try and meet Mercedes of where they're at with their shakedown, so you can be on the same level as they are in terms of that mileage, that understanding of the car, understanding of the power unit, the power deployment modes and all of that. And I think when we take a look at a lot of these other teams, that's where I find that they're falling behind. And I think for Bahrain testing, I think a lot of these teams, I mean, they are going to have to put in some serious mileage come Bahrain to really catch up with Mercedes on that mileage front and understanding front.
Yeah, you ride a different wave, and what you'll see is a convergence. Everybody's working to that point of ultimate performance. And if you hit it now, you haven't been bold enough, because there's a lot of developments on the engine front, on the software front, but also on aerodynamic front still coming. There's a lot of knowledge to be gained. But for sure, Mercedes is ahead of the curve. They're riding the best wave they could have found. But what this weekend is, or this week has been about, it's almost like a track and field sprinter. Every training isn't about pure speed. They need to put in the kilometers as well to be able to then focus on speed work. And it's exactly the same with this. But you're totally correct. Mercedes is ahead of the curve by virtue of their preparation and the fact that they have had a faultless engine so far.
Yeah, and I think also on the out and outright performance of the engine and of the car, we don't really know where everyone really shakes out at this moment. I mean, you know, we have an understanding of where teams could be, but when it comes down to that flat out sort of performance from the car itself, we don't know that at this moment. Nobody really does, but they do have an understanding of the mileage and also the reliability of the power unit and the car itself. McLaren, what we saw from McLaren at the Barcelona shakedown, what we could see of it or read of it or spoke to people of them.
Yeah, potentially hurt.
Yeah, will most likely, I mean, their car that they showed in Barcelona will most likely be the car they start the season with, won't it?
Yes, and they've had a good, sort of good week. They had some niggles, fuel system issues, but if we're talking about lap times, they are in a similar bracket to Mercedes by the fifth day. Not every team ran on the same day, and it's significantly warmer. As we just wrapped up the shakedown on this Friday, it's significantly warmer than it was 2 days ago in Barcelona, and that's a big asterisk. But McLaren and Piastri seemed reasonably happy. Norris seems extremely happy that he has the number one on his car. Have you seen the suspension layout of the McLaren? Whew. They've been spending money and time on that.
Oh yeah, big time. Big time. A lot of it, I think, also they kind of look like they're going in that Aston Martin route where you're trying to, shed as much of the drag as possible, where it looks like Adrian Newey has kind of gone, I'm getting into Aston Martin too early, but Adrian Newey's sort of gone all in that direction. And I think where McLaren is at this moment is kind of like hovering on that, do we go full in on less drag, so to speak. I think for McLaren, like we had heard from them, They are going to develop this car a little bit later into the season. They wanted to give themselves as much time to develop this car as they could. I mean, even up to the point of running their car for the first time on day 3 of the shakedown, not day 1. They didn't get out of the garage until day 3.
But they got 3 days of running. That's something we need to say.
Yes,
you had
sure.
5 days. You could do 3 out of 5. And they started late to give themselves the time to actually get every nut and bolt correct.
And they didn't do a filming day either before the shakedown in Barcelona. So they still have, they can still lean on that as well, because they still have that in their back pocket. But for the first day, you would think they would have run into problems, right? But I think, as Lando Norris had put it at the end of the first day of their running, I think he said it turned out to be a decent day. And I think for him, they totaled about 76 laps. Rob Marshall who's the chief designer. He was also really happy with what they were able to achieve. But I think, Nelson, they did run into problems when they got to day 2 of their shakedown. Piastri ran into some issues on the Thursday. He had run the full program in the morning, but then during the lunchtime break, the team did discover that they had a fuel systems issue, so they had to strip the car down. Piastri wasn't able to go back out, so they didn't do much running on the Thursday, just 48 laps in total. But on Friday, both Piastri and Norris, they were out there, and from what I was told, we still have about 10 minutes left in shakedown on Friday of this taping. But from what I was told, McLaren looked really good on the Friday.
Yes, what I'm hearing is that it looks super stable, mid-speed, medium speed and high-speed corners. And it's in the similar performance bracket for now. But what you see with McLaren is that they haven't gone extreme on one design philosophy. They're trying to build an all-round car. And that's what gave them last year such an advantage, because they were fast everywhere and under any circumstance, and they have another massive advantage over some of their competitors. Mm-hmm. Look at the mileage for the Mercedes engine across their teams. Insane.
It's wild, because they're also Mercedes is pulling data from them too, right?
And they're getting data from Mercedes.
Yeah, 100%.
So the optimization, how it works with the engine, you can't really have a factory engine and a customer engine. It's completely leveled off. And that's the reason why in recent years McLaren has been able to compete on this level, because they don't have a customer engine but the same engine, and they benefit from Mercedes' good start as well.
McLaren's full run program, obviously they did run on the Friday. Wednesday was their first day out, 76 laps from Norris, only 48 laps for Piastri. Red Bull Racing, Nelson, it's your team.
My team. Oh, that's a problem. No, it's definitely not my team.
Impressive first day, though. Impressive first day of testing from them. They started off, going into testing a little hesitant, should we say? Their expectations were quite low, and expectations in terms of mileage, I think, were quite low as well. However, it turned out to be pretty decent. The Monday they ran 107 laps, I believe it was.
They got good mileage. They seem to get more confident on their engine package as the week progressed. Every time I spoke to them, they seem more and more, let's say, proud of what they're achieving, because let's just not underestimate what they had to do here. Yeah. And to build your own power unit with the help of Ford still, but you are the one doing it for the first time. All of your processes needed to be right. I think Red Bull powertrains can be incredibly proud. I think the Red Bull itself looks very interesting. And as we saw on this day, on the final day of Shakedown, they are in the same sort of performance bracket right now. So they're in the 16s, maybe high 15s. We're waiting on final timing, but they're there. The only hiccup they had was Isaac Hadjar's off. I also heard that Max had at least one, maybe two, which could indicate that there is a fine-tuning still to be done, as you'd expect, in the drivability of the car. Because if it snaps away from you like that a couple of times, in very cold conditions as well, could mean that, yeah, the way the power is implemented and how you get it to your rear wheels could be a bit harsh. But that's why you do this shakedown. And that's the learning curve every team will have with these engines.
Yeah, for Hajar, crashed on the Tuesday. He'd run about 51 laps up to that point, switched over from the wet tire to the intermediate tire, and then had his crash. It was a pretty heavy crash. Saw some pictures of it. And I think the team actually has done quite well to get this car, ready and back out for Friday for Max. I mean, it sounded like they may not have even been able to make it out for Friday, but the team able to get some components, get some parts there for this
impressive
car. Yeah, really impressive. It was also interesting. Laurent Mekies, when we were speaking with him in Detroit, was sort of predicting engine issues for them for the first few months, but the team was pretty happy with how things turned out for this shakedown. I mean, I was assuming that this Red Bull Ford combination making this powertrain, Nelson, was going to be a complete disaster, but
ye of little faith. Come
yes,
on.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, it's turned out in the opposite direction for them. Some teams I've spoken to are actually quite impressed with what they've done.
Yeah, I think everybody in the paddock knows how big the scale of the challenge has been, but it's all for nothing if they're 2/10 in the rear every qualifying because they don't have the final amount of power that they need. And those are questions we and they don't have the answer to right now. It runs reasonably reliable, and they're buoyed. And I think that's their main takeaway from this test.
Interesting shakedown from Ferrari.
Yes.
Their first day of the shakedown was in the wet, so wasn't the best conditions for running. But day two, Hamilton was just saying that the cold weather didn't really allow them to get the tires really working. I think on day two, Hamilton did 85 laps, which was, I think, really good in that morning session. Then Leclerc took over in the afternoon on day two. He ran 70 laps and was on the C2 tire, so the medium compound. And then he did 19 more laps on the C1, which was the hard tire. He racked up about 415 kilometers of running on their day two of the shakedown. They did about 174 laps of running on that second day. So really impressive from Ferrari. Leclerc on the Friday morning, he was the one to set, Ferrari's best lap time of the week, but obviously going for more later on in the afternoon sessions as well. But I think both drivers pretty hopeful after this shakedown. I look at this car, and when we saw it appear at Fiorano, like that was sort of this spec A car which Ferrari has, and their goal is to really aggressively update this car before Australia.
Yeah, and there was a raised eyebrow why Ferrari elected to run in the wet. But
Yeah.
you could say there is no better way to optimize drivability of power output than in very low grip conditions. And they made use of it for their first day. By this Friday, they really look good. Apparently, the car is responding well to exits. Of course, it's running in, as you say, very basic spec, so expect to see a lot more intricate wings. But it's been good. My big issue I have is how come Lewis Hamilton doesn't have an engineer there? Mm-hmm. He's working with the same engineer that Leclerc has.
Yeah.
That's great. But you don't build a relationship, and you need to learn about this car together. And that's what these tests are for. I don't understand it. I don't understand what's going on there.
Yeah, Brian Bozzi, the engineer, doing both drivers for the Barcelona shakedown. Busy man, that's for sure.
Busy Bozzi, yeah.
I mean, I haven't really heard who they're gonna set Lewis up with. So it's
there's all this talk about a McLaren engineer, a Frenchman who hasn't really done race engineering that much.
I don't know. Like if you're working with Lewis Hamilton, you need experience. Like you need someone who's going to be able to, work with Lewis and sometimes be firm with Lewis on certain things, right? You're going to need someone like that. And I think if you throw a rookie race engineer in there, I mean, Lewis may just eat this guy up and spit him out.
Well, here's the thing. I wouldn't be able to name right now someone with the amount of experience and success at big teams to work with him right now, because there's a lot of good people at different teams. The only one you might think about is Rocky Rocklin who's at Red Bull right now, but he's just taken over the junior program basically. And I don't think he wants to travel that much, but yeah. And there's bound to be a lot of talent still, but they will struggle, I think, on short notice to get a big name for him.
Yeah, Ferrari for their running, they didn't run on Monday. On Tuesday, 121 laps. Leclerc did 64. Hamilton did 57. No running on the Wednesday. Thursday, 174 laps. That was split between Leclerc doing 85 and Hamilton doing 89. And they did run on Friday. Hopefully we get some final times from
Yes,
Ferrari.
I'm refreshing. I'm working on it.
We finish our recording. But looking at the other Ferrari-powered F1 team, and that's Haas. Great running from Haas. I felt on the Monday, 154 laps, all done by Esteban Ocon. Both drivers splitting duties on Friday. On Wednesday, though, only 42 laps for Ollie Behrman. No running on the Thursday.
Planned no running.
Yeah.
For them.
Yes, exactly. And they were saving their running for the Friday, like everybody else, because they had better weather. Actually, fairly impressed from Haas. I did hear from team principal Io Komatsu this week, and he actually, he sounded pretty happy. He just was trying to make everyone understand that, they have a lot of work cut out for them in terms of sifting through the data and what they have. But the team actually looks a lot stronger than I actually thought they were going to, coming into a new regulation like this.
Yeah, they've since Komatsu took over, they've really nailed getting a lot of the basics of building a car right. And when you have the foundation like that, then you can start to branch out a little bit. And over 100 laps this morning, Behrman on the Friday. Super impressive.
Yeah.
Beautiful looking car, by the way.
Yes.
Lovely livery. That's my favorite so far.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they will be quietly optimistic, but having the same sort of doubts as we all do about the actual pecking order by now, because we don't know. We don't know about ultimate performance. You can only leave this test knowing that you got the mileage, you got the data, and you're in good shape. And that's, I think, what counts really for Haas. That's what's happening there.
Haven't gone to ask you yet about the Toyota relationship, with the TGR relationship with Haas.
It's messy, yeah. It's slightly messy with wrong names, and we know that.
Yes.
Is it an official Toyota project? Is it a Cologne project? Is it a family run project?
Yes.
It is a bit messy, but I don't think it will detract from the ultimate goal for Toyota and Haas, and that's a continued cooperation, possibly leading into a factory operation down the line, years and years away. But it is weird. It is weird that, the naming of the car and everything. Yeah, we'll figure it out. At some point, we need to see some people in the flesh to be able to nail that one down.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously Toyota coming in, a big part of that is, working with Haas for their, for their off-track, for testing purposes, testing of previous cars. Toyota's working closely with Haas in that nature, and then obviously running a lot of their young drivers as well, and at the same time helping them with their state-of-the-art simulator and as well. And so I'm curious to see how this relationship evolves. It does sort of feel like if things go well and, Gene decides he's kind of had enough of being a team owner and being a part of a team and trying to run it all and taking a big, handsome buyout or payout. I mean, these are the things that I'm kind of, looking out for over the next few years. It's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens between Haas and Toyota moving forward. Aston Martin,
Can I interrupt with some news?
Yeah, do it.
Hamilton supposedly has just driven a 1:16.3, thereby taking the fastest time of the week. Don't know about track temperatures, nor tire compounds, nor fuel levels. So, grain of salt, caveats, yes, but it just underlines the fact that we're quite positive about Ferrari.
I think so. Yeah, I'm just actually getting messages.
Same thing.
Oh, this is great. I mean, this is all like
It's
news coming in.
soon to be out of date news.
Yes, very soon to be out of date news, but it's still great to do it in the moment. But yeah, I mean, for Ferrari and for Lewis setting that lap time, I mean, we again, still talking about Ferrari powered machinery here. And if you go back a couple of months ago, I think a lot of us were saying something completely different about Ferrari's power unit for this season, and now it looks like things are.
They look okay. They look solid.
Yeah.
But what goes for Mercedes goes for Ford and Red Bull and goes for Ferrari as well. They might turn up to Melbourne and not be in the window because I don't think this test will have given them all the answers.
Aston Martin. So
very few answers for Aston Martin.
Hold on a second here. I mean, because I was getting bombarded by people asking me, they're telling me that Aston wasn't going to make the test and all this stuff. I'm like, they're making the test. It's fine. And
barely.
Well, I think the car getting there late Wednesday night didn't help things much. I mean, they were still putting this car together late into Thursday, which is actually something that I actually did want to talk about as well. When it comes to putting these new cars together, it does seem like starting off, it's taken some of these teams a few days to get these cars put together, fired up, and ready to go. For Aston Martin, Lance only got out for 5 laps. That was towards the end of the evening session on the Thursday. Heard from Mike Crack. He was, happy that the car was able to get out onto the track for Thursday just to do the 5 laps before the car came to a stop. But the team was pretty happy, being able to get that car to the track and put together because, Nelson, they've really been up against it trying to get this thing finalized and out there, not even running with a livery, full carbon. However, Fernando did run all day on the Friday. They weren't really pushing on the power unit. It ran at a lot of low power modes, which was to be expected. But the car looks awesome.
It is gorgeous. And I think in that there may be an answer about the delays. Because packaging on that car must have been incredibly difficult.
Man.
It is slim, it is narrow, it's extreme, it's everything you would expect a greatest hits of Adrian Newey car to be like. It has all of his design philosophy in there, like his design DNA. He pushes the limits, and he did it with Leightonhouse, he did it with Williams, he did it at McLaren, and he definitely did it at Red Bull. And you can see he's done it again. There is a danger in that because you cannot go infinitely tight on packaging. And you also need a car that's a little bit forgiving on in some ways, including on mechanics. But it looks like a pure work of art.
Yeah, very aggressive design that Newey has taken with this. He's really gone all in on this car, and the concept that he's sort of come up with has a similar type of a zero pod sort of shape to the side pods. I'm really surprised they were able to get radiators in there at all. I mean, that thing is
radiators and airflow.
Yeah, that thing is tightly packaged, like very, very tightly packaged, like you had said. And, working with working with an engine manufacturer to work out those details of how big is the power unit going to be, how big is the battery going to be, and then trying to design something around that to package it tightly has to be impossible. They must have gone through multiple iterations of, the engine packaging, the engine covering, and trying to design the aerodynamics around it, because the basically from that engine all the way back to the gearbox, which they're making on their own now, very tightly packaged, very sleek, very slim. I think this car is really built for straight line speed. it looks like a car that Newey doesn't want there to be a lot of drag coming off of it either. It kind of really looks like they're pushing in that direction. The
But
suspension on it's
suspension,
crazy too.
exactly. It's
Man.
I can't wait to see it in the flesh.
Yeah,
I
me too.
really can't.
Yeah, me too.
But
That's something that that suspension is wild.
yeah, we need to see it in the flesh and make comparisons, and that's the maybe frustrating part of this week, that we haven't been able to get up close, but we'll get ample opportunity. But there's also a big asterisk behind the team, because there is more and more a rumbling that there are issues with either the engine or the fuel or both.
Yeah, I think it's mostly it seems like there's engine problems for sure. I mean, remember the last time Honda got involved when they first came back into F1 with the hybrid power units, they did struggle, but then eventually they ended up making one of the best power units on the grid.
Yeah, but they completely redesigned
100%.
and did basically a 180 to almost follow Mercedes' lead in that. Will they have the time to do that in this day and age? And let's also underline, I really want to make the point that all these engine manufacturers also had to work together with fuel suppliers to get this synthetic fuel right. And that's not been easy. And that could be a determining factor on performance. And obviously, Aston Martin's working with Aramco, and I don't think that partnership has a lot of experience in doing this. And Honda is not the Honda of last year with Red Bull. It's a different group of people.
Yeah.
They started quite late on the project compared to the rest, because Honda did a U-turn on F1. So they're already up against it, and it could be that they struggle initially. But however quick that car goes, it's gorgeous to look at.
Yeah, big time. And I think we're going to see probably for the first half of the season that will be a car when it comes down to the handling of it, and the performance in terms of the aerodynamics is going to be very strong, but they may be held back by the power unit. But I do see that turning around as well. I mean, this is Honda we're talking about. This is one of the more successful engine manufacturers ever in Formula One. So could definitely see them turning this whole thing around.
But could they turn it around in the same season? They couldn't last time around, and that's a big question.
Yeah, exactly. It's definitely going to be tough. I'm
assuming that they're in trouble, because right now we're hearing things, but we don't know them.
Yes, exactly. Racing Bulls. So team principal Alan Permain was pretty pleased with the team's shakedown. I think he felt that the team hit the ground running with their car, and the Red Bull powertrains, that power unit. He was happy with the reliability as well. I don't think they didn't really have many stoppages, so I think they were able to run their programs, which was impressive. I thought they even started to experiment with car setup and running with different engine modes as well. And so I think, Nelson, this is a good start for this team. Obviously, we didn't really get to see competitive lap times, but I think the mileage that they were able to do was really good.
Yeah, it was a test without any notable highs or lows. And that's exactly what you need, especially if you have a new driver in there as well. Just very good, very solid, very strong foundation to work on. Added their mileage to that of the sister team, basically. They can only be quite happy with where they are. And what I'm hearing is they're very happy with Lindblad.
Yes. He put in a very good shift on Wednesday, 120 laps. That's the most that either driver was able to do throughout the 3 days of their shakedown. So he was able to accrue the most mileage for the team when it comes down to it. Lawson ran 88 laps on Monday, but they split duties. And then Lawson, again, 64 laps on the Thursday. So, it seems impressive. Pretty excited.
What was your sense of Lindblad when you saw him in Detroit?
It seemed pretty confident. Like, I didn't get the... sometimes when you sit down with rookies and then you kind of... They're a little nervous and
Nothing, eh? He
Little
was very fluid.
Yeah, very calm, very collected, he knew exactly what he wanted to say. Actually, he even corrected me on one of my questions, so he was paying
That's
attention.
what I do with you all the time, so
Exactly.
I'm good, yeah.
So, but I really, that side of things, I thought he handled himself really well. Obviously he's had his struggles in F2 last season, right? In not the most impressive F2 season that we have seen from a driver come from F2 and then go into Formula One. But everything I keep hearing from the team, they really like this kid. They really like him a lot.
Yeah, we just gotten to the point that F2 is just not that relevant. You might as well just keep working on TPC testing and wait and see. But that's a whole different discussion. I think they're in a good spot. I think they have the foundation in place to do well in Bahrain and then see where it shakes out. But they've added a lot of data for the whole Ford Red Bull crew.
Audi. I want to talk about Audi because...
Disappointment.
I was just going to say, it's been pretty brutal. Monday morning, they were out on track for their first shakedown day. It was a struggle. They ran into a lot of issues. They only got over 25 laps, I think, the entire day. However, Jonathan Wheatley remained very positive throughout all of it because on Wednesday,
what else can you do?
Well, on Wednesday they only got 68 laps in, so it's like they didn't do much running. Like they really struggled.
And they only got in the mid 30s this morning. We're still waiting for final result and lap count. I struggle to understand it a little bit, considering they had their opening run so early. They were the first to run and run a filming day, and it just seemed one niggle after another, and partly it's probably car build, and partly it's engine, but it'll take some face-to-face interviewing to actually know what's going on. But it hasn't been smooth sailing at all.
No. And I think this was to be expected. I think if you were Audi, right? Like they knew what they were getting themselves into. This has never been in Formula One. Like this has been a huge learning curve for them, and I think it's going to be for the whole season. And I think if you're fans of the team and the drivers, Gabriel Bortoleto, Nico Hulkenberg, I think buckle yourself in for what could be a bumpy ride through the first half, at least, of this season. What did you make of Alpine?
I think Alpine looks good.
Yeah.
I think that car looks hella interesting.
Yeah.
They've gone for a few very interesting options on both front and rear wing treatment. It looks well put together. They've done quite a good amount of laps. They'll also benefit from the strong start that Mercedes has had and get the data after this week to implement. But I would not be surprised to see Alpine back where they most logically belong, so fighting around fifth. But that's only a gut feeling. I'm not basing it so much on lap times. But they seem happy. They seem pretty pleased.
I think when we take a look at this, making the decision to switch over to Mercedes for Alpine, I think is going to be what's going to take them from that maybe fifth in the pecking order of the teams up a little bit higher, especially at the start of the season. I think this team's going to be, I think they will be competitive. Now, are they going to be fighting for podiums? I don't think so. However, I think they will be fighting for points every weekend. And I think they're going to kind of be like that third fastest Mercedes team. Looking at the lap count on Monday, Franco Colapinto, 60 laps, and then duties were split between Colapinto and Gasly on the Wednesday for their second day of testing with 125 laps in total. Colapinto did 58, Gasly did 67, and running on Friday as well. So I think for Alpine, I think this is going to be a good start for them, Nelson. I really do.
I do as well, and it's not just the engine; it's also the gearbox, which was a massive issue for Alpine last year. It's going to be also the rear suspension parts as well. It is going to be fairly interesting to see how they stack up to Williams when they actually get to the track. And it could still be that the Mercedes isn't the strongest engine,
Yeah.
but it's pointing in that direction right now.
Speaking of Williams, we heard from their team principal, James Vowles, on when was it? When did I hear from? I heard it from him on, I think it was a Wednesday. Was it Wednesday? Yeah, it was Wednesday. And he said that, quote, "I'm pleased to say we have passed all necessary tests, and for avoidance of doubt, there has never been a problem with our chassis tests, which were passed many weeks ago." He went on to say that they are ready for Bahrain testing and will do a promotional filming day ahead of it, which is good for them because they're going to need as much mileage as they can get. We will hear from Williams later on in the week. On Tuesday, I think it is, we'll hear from Williams and team principal James Vowles again. We'll get to sit down and talk to him and get more information out of him. But what did you make of that line when he said that, there wasn't anything wrong with our chassis? We passed those tests, weeks ago. Never really talked much about that front nose cone, did he?
No, nothing about that, which is the first part that hits a wall in a crash test. I think this is reality hitting Williams a little bit on the nose cone in this case. But they could get away with it if that chassis isn't too heavy, because there's an awful lot being said and being rumored about that car being too heavy right now.
Yes.
If that is not the case, and if they're on the weight limit and they've been able to plug away, you don't necessarily need this test. If you are in a position like Williams, when you get all the data from Mercedes and your drivetrain is going to work, blah, et cetera, then you might get away with missing Barcelona. But if you can do it, you should do it. And they would always have aimed to do it. So there is a defeat there that they're now not acknowledging. So they're trying to put a good face on it. Mm-hmm. And I would just rather have heard what actually happened on the delay.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's a painful look considering the line from Williams that it was all about 26 and you missed the start of 26. But I'm not writing them off, because you could come out in Bahrain with a nicely put together car, 200 kilometers at a dry Silverstone under your belt, which is probably more than what Audi now has in terms of kilometers, and do your thing from there. It's not lost, but you haven't won anything by losing Barcelona.
Ever the optimist, Nelson Valkenburg.
There are a few people call me an optimist, so I'll take it. Realist. I'm a realist.
Well, realists. Well, we should be realists on this next topic, because we're going to talk about Cadillac. Already behind in how much running they wanted to do, but on day 3 for them, starting to feel a bit happier with their running. I believe they got up to like 66 laps on their final day of running, but it didn't start off. It didn't
Great.
start off well.
No, it started off rough.
Yeah.
And we should have seen that coming. I think they saw it coming. I think everybody there is being realistic, because if you're not, you're going to piss off a lot of people at GM if you're over-promising at this point. But it was in the low 20s this morning. They're plugging away. And if you had to choose between Audi and Cadillac on who had the better test, I'd maybe say Cadillac.
I don't know, buddy. They're both tied to me.
But the fact that they're tied is a win for Cadillac. New crew, new everything, late start.
Good point.
The Audi team took a podium last year.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So I think as foundations go, these are quite shaky, but they're in place. You have to start somewhere, and that's what they've always been saying. And they'll have to work hard to get where they need to be. They've been conservative on the car, quite logically, and it'll go through a few iterations still. But this year is not about points. It can't be.
I think for Cadillac, hearing from Graham Loudon sounded, quite happy with just being able to get the car there, get it put together, get it onto the track, get some mileage in there, get the team feeling comfortable with their jobs and their roles at the track. as well. And I think for them, yes, this is going to be a learning year. They're going to have a lot of downs and some ups, but I think if they're able to just try and get one car across that start finish line at the end of Australia, I think is going to be a big success for this team. But the more running they can get in, the better off the faster they're going to move things forward. But I think Graham Loudon's done a really good job so far, Nelson, in getting this team ready.
Yes, galvanizing, and he knows what's needed from a race team. And the fact that they had to hire everybody.
Yes.
It's like this is not a team yet. It can't be a team yet, but at least they're working together to become a team. And they'll go through, as you say, a lot of lows, but they can't move forward without them. You'll have to fill a lot of time to understand what you need to do right. I'm fascinated to see their curve. For me, try to get within 107%. Try not to kick the table while you're podcasting is the second one. But try to get within 107% during qualifying, and then work from there. And as you say, try to reach the finish. Then get closer, plug away, get your people in the groove, listen to your drivers, and by the end of the season, look like a very credible F1 team. Maybe not with a big points tally, but this is your starting point.
And just to run everyone listening through how that week of the shakedown went. Monday, Mercedes ran, so did Red Bull, Racing Bulls, Haas, Audi, Alpine, Cadillac. Mercedes was the lap leader with 151 laps. On Tuesday, just Red Bull and Ferrari ran. Ferrari with 121 laps, Red Bull 78. On Wednesday, McLaren, Mercedes, Audi, Racing Bulls, Alpine, Haas all ran, with Mercedes running 183 laps. On Thursday, we had Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Racing Bulls, Cadillac, Aston Martin, with Ferrari going the furthest with 174 laps. And then on Friday, so far, at the time of this taping, the shakedown has ended, but Haas, Ferrari, McLaren, Alpine, Red Bull, Audi, Aston Martin, and Cadillac all running on Friday, with, we believe, Lewis Hamilton setting the quickest time at the time of this recording.
1:16.3, which is, let's talk about timings. About 4.5 seconds only in the winter time on a green track, only off pole of last year. And I think everybody was expecting these cars to be massively slower. They're going to be slower than last year's car, but not massively so. Remember people saying, it's going to be slower than an F2.
Yeah.
By the fifth lap or something, what was it? Second lap was very close already for George Russell, but by the fifth lap, he was under the F2 pole. I think it is a tremendous credit to the F1 teams as a whole, engine manufacturers in particular, that we've seen the test the way we've seen it. And in hindsight, F1 teams may have actually said, well, we could make this public, because it was by no means an embarrassment. It was difficult for Audi as a new engine manufacturer, but an embarrassment it was not.
I agree. And I think having this being a closed door shakedown test, it was a test, but having that to be closed doors, I think, I don't know. I don't think it really needed to be. I mean, obviously everyone had concerns as to where this was going to be, what the teams are going to be able to do. And lo and behold, like you had said, like a lot of these teams on the Friday, like running very closely together in terms of lap times, surprisingly, considering that we're in such a big regulation change that you would expect there to be huge gaps between these teams. And there just really isn't, which is quite fascinating in itself, because the last time we had a big power unit regulation change in 2014, I mean, what? Like we had 80 something laps in total from all of the teams, like on the first day of testing, I think it was. Like it was wild to see where it was and where it is now. And it's got me really excited for this season. You know, I really thought and had in my mind that it's going to be a runaway You're going to have one team that's going to destroy everyone. Where now is you're probably going to have one team that's going to have an advantage, but I can see them getting pulled back.
I have the afternoon or the day times. They just came in.
Let's do it.
Let's do it in soon to be out of date in motorsport news. Fastest time, as we were saying, for Lewis Hamilton, a 1:16.348, followed reasonably closely by Lando Norris. Lando Norris in the McLaren doing 1:16.594. Norris, incidentally, doing 83 laps in the second part of the day. And Lewis Hamilton doing 63. Charles Leclerc, early morning running. He set the pace in the morning, 16.6, 78 laps, bringing up the tally for Ferrari well over the 100 mark. So that's 141 141 laps for Ferrari today. That's really good. Really fourth for Oscar Piastri, 17.4. Means that McLaren did 163 laps over the day. Max Verstappen in fifth in a 1:17.5. Some alarm bells for a lot of Verstappen fans. What we'll just keep on saying is this is not about lap times. It's about foundational testing. And Red Bull did 120 laps today in the hands of for Verstappen. It's good with that new engine, with that new package. They'll be pleased. They'll be not as pleased as Alpine, though, because Alpine clocked a 1:17.7. That's fine in the hands of Pierre Gasly. Yep. But Pierre Gasly did 160 laps today. His neck is
he's going to fall off. Yeah.
Yes, he's done for the day.
Oh, yeah, he's toast.
Esteban Haas had an even better day in terms of mileage. Esteban Ocon 7th, 1:18.3. And Oliver Behrman, 1:18.4. And combining those laps, you get to a whopping 191. 191 laps for the Haas team.
This is what we were saying earlier. This isn't dated. We were right on what we were saying up top.
It's insane.
That's amazing.
Slower times for Audi. Hulkenberg, 1:19.8. And Bortoletto, 1:20.1. But combining for over 140 laps for Audi. They've done a lot of mileage today. They overcame a lot of their teething problems. They are going to be behind the curve a little bit on times, but they did what they did, and they must be pleased with the way Audi finished the test. 11th, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, 1:20.7, running lower power modes, as you say, and also not reaching the 50 lap mark. That's a problem. That's not good enough, even though it's their first day of running. And Valtteri Bottas in the Cadillac was just a tick slower than the Aston Martin, and almost a tenth slower, and did 54 laps in the Cadillac. So, decidedly meh for Cadillac, but as we said, this is their starting point. It can only get better. But some of these teams, Haas, almost that's 200 amazing. Laps on the day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I cannot believe that they were able to go that far in that car. But, I kind of understand about why Ayao Komatsu was so happy on day one of their test.
Yeah, it's great.
Saw the writing on the wall. That's also good for Ferrari. That's great news for Ferrari if you think about it. Yes, I mean, this is components from that Haas has made in conjunction with Toyota and also with Ferrari, but the power unit itself is Ferrari, and I think
400 laps for Ferrari power units today.
That's very, very,
if not more. Signs. No, more, way more, but just very positive. And yeah, maybe they would like more speed at the four teams, the Red Bull 4 teams. They're second in the rears if you look at pace. I still believe there's a lot more in every car in terms of where we'll be in a few months when we go to Barcelona. It's going to be seconds quicker, I believe. Yeah. But this is what it is. We've wrapped up 5 days of intermittent testing. Not everybody are out on track in similar conditions, similar days. And some people look better than others. They've got some work to do.
Yeah, and then we'll hear more from Mercedes on Monday. Get to hear from Toto Wolff, George Russell, Kimi Antonelli, and then Williams will be on the Tuesday. So we'll finally start to get to talk to some of the drivers and team personnel to really unpack everything that came from the shakedown. But I just felt that, we should jump on and break down, what we saw, what we've heard. So, we can give the listeners and viewers some more information. I know the race, Ed and Noble were like trying to get into the actual track like for 2 days, and then they went back home. I was watching some of their content. Did you see what those guys are up to?
Yes, I think annoyed is the best way to put it. And let's be honest, we've all been annoyed by the fact that we don't have the full picture. But the picture will become clearer in Bahrain, and I can't wait for the cars to hit the track there. And we'll see some more liveries there as well.
Yeah, we're just gonna miss each other, eh? Because you're gonna be leaving when I'm coming in for Bahrain Test 2.
That's how I arranged it. Yeah,
you planned it the whole time, eh?
Yeah, I'm on site for Bahrain 1, and I'll do commentary from the studio in Bahrain 2. And for you, it's a bit vice versa.
It's gonna be good. I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait to see these cars up close. And then also, we're going to be getting some more information from F1 as the weeks go through to help better explain the different types of modes, the harvesting, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to be back next Monday with another show with some more information. Then, Nelson, thanks so much for taking the time to jump on and do this with me. I know you've had a really busy day, so I really appreciate your time.
No worries, mate.